right, on today's episode of the Anime Village podcast, I welcome on a very special guest. He is Oscar Jimenez. He is a comic book artist. He has worked for Marvel and DC Comics, and he is currently with us working on Adamanto. So very excited to have Oscar joining us. As always, Brian Soroka, who is our Chief Lore Officer for Anime Village, is joining us as well today. Oscar, how are you?
Well, perfect. Just enjoying the change of weather here in Spain. We've had, an infernal heat until just a couple of days ago. And all of a sudden, it's been as if someone had just forgotten that we're in the middle of October and literally flicked the switch. And suddenly turn the temperatures down like 4 and 5 degrees all of a sudden overnight, literally. I mean, we were just sleeping shirtless and one night, and then the next night it was chilly. So it finally feels like October, one of my favorite months of the year, by the way. So
Same here. It sounds like you have the New England weather over here. We're about to get we're at 70 degrees weather already, so we're going all over the place. We're 55 to 70.
No, it doesn't feel October even though it's a bit chilly. It's it's my favorite month. I like to think about it of Halloween October kind of thing. For me, it's Halloween the entire month. I'm a huge horror fan. Horror fan. Comic books, horror comic books, horror movies, horror video games. I'm a huge fan of horror. So,
all the Halloween, all the horror stuff, all the good stuff. Right? Well, I want to ask you, Oscar, about a little bit about your background and how did you become an artist, and especially in the comic book world, how did that all start?
Well, it's a funny story. Is the fact that I've been drawing since I was a toddler, literally. I mean, I started doodling even before knowing what I was doing. I mean, my mom, rest in peace, she used to recall the fact that I started being interested in pens and any surface that those pens could draw on, including walls and stuff, before I was even able to stand still, literally. So the best way to have me, my mom always said, you leave some crayons to him or anything, and something to draw on, and there's no kid for hours. And so that was the way that they babysit me. So and I was just the entire day drawing. For me, it's just like breathing since I was a kid. And this evolved over time. When I was first in school, then in high school, and I was always drawing even during, class time, which got me in a little bit of trouble often. Got a few funny anecdotes about that. And then it was around 15, 16-year-old. And, I'm from Barcelona, here in Spain, and we got the biggest convention and oldest convention, comic book convention here in Spain, which is the Barcelona Salón del Cómic de Barcelona, which translates as Barcelona Comic Convention, which has been happening since the late 70s. I think it was the first edition, and they always, I don't know if they still keep the habit, but they used to hold a contest, an annual contest for new talents. And a friend of mine pushed me into it. I wasn't convinced at all. I mean, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't my initiative. He who actively pushed me to submit an entry to the contest, which, by the way, was a horror story. Was a short horror story in the vein of the old, easy comics from the. I loved my dad was a big fan. My dad was a comic book is, but not lately, but he used to be a huge comic book reader, and horror was one of favorite genres. So our household, even before I was born, was full of comic books, including a lot, a ton of horror comics. So it's in my DNA somehow. And yeah, it was a horror story, kind of silly looking back at it right now. I think it was like 4 or 5 pages. I mean, also it was done in a whim. It was I think that the deadline for submissions was like 1 week after I was told into it, so I kind of went really it was like this hit on the moment thing. And then it turned out that I was granted it wasn't first place, but I think it was third place. I can't exactly remember. I can't remember if it was second, third. I was just so happy about it. Oh, funny anecdote about this. There was someone who was exactly, I mean, who shared my exact same name, but with a J, I mean, with a G instead of a J in the second name. So they notified him that he had won.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a mistake. So it was weird because when I submitted, they told me that they personally called every entry, that it was their policy to call personally to every person that had submitted, to let them know whether they had won something or not. And there was just a couple of days before the comic convention, and I hadn't gotten any call, and I thought that it was kind of weird, so I reached out to them, called to them, and it was like this thing where I called them. Oh, hi, I'm just I submit an entry in your contest, and I was just they told me that you will call me, and it happens. I'm calling you. Yeah, can you please tell me your name? Uh, Give them my name, and then it was like this weird silence and voices, hushes in the back, like she's talking to someone else. And all of a sudden, sorry, excuse me a moment. Got to go. I got to hang down. I'll call you right away. A few minutes passed, and then they called me again and told me that I had indeed won. I think it was third place. And yeah, I was actually happy. I wasn't expecting to win anything, so it was kind of huge. And then later on, when I was on the actual convention, looking at the entries and everything, that's where I found out that there was someone who was Oscar Jimenez with a
With a G.
With a G.
And
Yeah.
and what happened this time is that because of the being won the contest and everything, somehow a lot of people approached me. I mean, I didn't actually approach anyone. I was approached by people, especially people from the staff of the stand of what used to be the Spaniard publisher who did the reprints in Spain for Marvel.
Oh, nice.
That's where I met Carlos Pacheco.
Oh, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, alongside he wasn't known yet at the time. I mean, he hadn't started working in fact, the only thing that Carlos had, he was known in Spain, but he was known in Spain because he used to do covers and back covers and posters and stuff for those reprints that was on you for those times where maybe there wasn't a proper cover, and so they commissioned cover. Carlos, one of those artists, and there was also Salvador La Roca, Greek guy also, and Juanjo Guarnido too. Maybe I don't know if you have ever heard of Juanjo, but he is won an Eisner, but for Black Sat. He's been publishing. He's been living and publishing for quite a lot of years now in France.
Oh, wow.
But not at the time. At the time, he was still here in Spain, living in Spain, and publishing also, doing covers for Comics Forum. Around that same time, so I met all of them.
That's awesome.
I got really close with Carlos. I kind of I don't know. He was really really charming, and he kind of took me as one I don't know, one time after that, a couple of years after that, he told me that he saw a bit of himself in me.
Yeah.
And
cool.
he kind of we kind of connected, and he liked my kind of liked my work and everything, and we keep contact from that moment on. And also I met the art director for the editorial, who he kept my phone number just for reference, and he told me that maybe they will be interested. In fact, they published a couple of I did a cover for them. I did also a central poster. The cover that I was referring to was cover for a New Warriors book.
Yeah.
And another Punisher illustration that they used as a central poster in another.
You always get the Punisher in there, eh? Somewhere.
Yeah. And one of my favorite characters, so I was really happy about that.
Oh, I know. That's why I said it. That's why I said it.
Yeah, in fact, the thing is that the funny bit about this is that I didn't draw this illustration especially for that. They used Pera, which is the name of the art director. He actually, I had done that illustration before, so he used it. He liked it so much. I told him, we're going to use this as a poster. We're going to publish this as a poster. And yeah, please, by all means, thank you. And that was it. And then I also met same story almost. The same thing, but with the guys who published this in Spain, which were Ediciones Cinco, and I met also the guy who was kind of responsible for most of the editorial line, and so I made contact with both. I also started doing back covers for them, for the guys who represented DC Comics in Spain. And that's how I started. I was around 16-year-old at the time. And then that's when Marvel UK happened. It was 1992, and it was, just all the huge boom of the huge, image thing and all that sudden boom of sales and everything. And everyone wanted all of a sudden one piece of the cake. And Marvel UK had been for a long time just reprinting, reprinting in England. Marvel material, but they started producing. They had been producing some material for their just their own market, but they started to they plan to produce that material and export it to the States, and that's when they approached us.
Oh, that's awesome. Oscar, what was the first comic you worked on when they reached out and everything? What did you end up working on?
I ended up working on as an inker for a limited series, which was also the first internationally known work of Carlos, which was Dark Ward. It was kind of Avengers kind of team that they created with the main characters from the Marvel UK publishing line. So they got their most well-liked characters and everything, and made a kind of this Avengers theme out of them. Obviously I submitted artwork, pencils and everything, but I was young, I was inexperienced, and at first, Carlos was the big star here. Obviously, his work was just so good that it was the actual person that they were interested in. The rest of us, we kind of came into the package, some incidentally, some accidentally, like me. And the thing is that at first they wanted to pair Carlos with Mark Farmer from the get-go for this project. But Carlos insisted that he wanted me as an actor, as an inker. Because we had been, by the time we had been talking about doing some personal projects and stuff that, stuff that actually end up happening, but not by us. I mean, it ended up happening, but written by Carlos and drawn by someone else and published only in the Spanish market. But that's another story. The thing is that by then we had been keeping in contact and working together and planning to work together. And then he was like, this part of his deal was it was one condition. Okay, I'll do this for you, but only if Oscar inks my work.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I went in. The problem was I was around. I don't know if I was because I my birthday is at the end of the year, so I'm in this weird situation where I kind of so I can't remember if I was still 17 or was already 18 at the time, but it was around that time. So I was still in high school, last year of high school actually, and then and so I actually inked that word while still going to classes in high school and having to study and everything. That was also my parents' condition.
What year did you start on Flash? Was it?
It was shortly after that. Shortly after that, because what happened is that I managed to get the work done, the 6 issues. But I mean, as I was always late and everything, they kind of got tired of dealing with it. And then for the next job, they actually paired him with Mark Farmer, even if
Mark
Carlos
Farmer,
wasn't. Yeah, even if Carlos wasn't keen with it, he insisted that he wanted to keep me on the job because, in fact, I had been, delivering all things considered, thinking about the particular circumstances and everything. But the fact is that this is a business, obviously, so they went with the most sensible option. And so I went back to my regular routine, high school. And so what happened is that I was already a fan of the Flash. I was a reader of the Flash around that time. And Carlos, just continued his career, which went really fast. And immediately after after that work was published and was a kind of small success, had glowing reviews, not a lot of sales, but glowing reviews. And so immediately he was approached by Marvel, and use Marvel, the use branch of Marvel, the main branch, and also by DC Comics.
Yeah.
And by the time Mike Wieringo was leaving the book, I've been working on it for I think couple of.
Oh, right. Ringo was on the book beforehand. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and he had been like his stint was like, I don't know, 20 issues, something like that. 20. He had been at it for like maybe 2-3 years, but it was moving on to other things, and he gave the heads up to Brian before leaving. Brian Augustine, the editor of the book by the time. So Brian was looking for a new penciler for the book, and so he offered, he contacted Carlos, and he offered the job to him. By the time I was keeping, I was speaking. Carlos lived in Cádiz, and I live in Barcelona, which is just opposite extremes of the country. So we just kept touch on the phone. We got keep contact on the phone. He used to speak maybe twice, thrice a week. So we spoke very, very often. He always, explained all to me. In fact, when he got offered those, he was approached by Marvel and DC and everything. He got to the phone and called me. You know what? I've been, I got a call from DC, got a call from Marvel, and we spoke about it and everything. So I knew all about it. But the fact that I was already out of the equation in working terms, unfortunately. But I kept touch with everything, and theoretically I was back to studying, but I wasn't doing any, to be honest. I mean, I was just going to actual building to the high school, but I wasn't going to class. I was just going straight to the library and spent the whole time in there drawing and planning, just preparing some samples to send somewhere else. And then what happened is that when I got word that that Flash was looking for a new artist, and Carlos was interested in doing a couple of issues, but wasn't interested in staying on the book because he wanted to work for Marvel. And so he told me, yeah, I'm going to take their offer, but just for a couple of issues because I already planning to go with Marvel.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I knew that the book was looking for a new regular artist, and so a friend of mine who actually finished high school that same year was his gift for finishing high school was just traveling to the States to go to the San Diego comic convention. He kind of took my samples and took them there. Knowing it was again the same story, repeating the same story with the with the contest, with the convention contest, this impromptu thing. I did. I can't remember if it was 2-3 pages of. I got pages from all the stuff that I had, sequential art, and 2 or 3 pages for a scene that I invented. I just invented a situation.
Yep.
And for starring the Flash. And he took those and copies of that, and went straight to the with all this cheeky to the to the DC booth and asked for a submissions editor. And it happened that the assistant editor for Brian Augustine happened to be there, to be one of the persons who was around when Joaquin, which is the name of my friend, editor, and he was like, just let me have a look at those when when the submissions editor started going through the pages, and they got to the Flash pages. He was like, oh, look, there's Flash pages in here, and then Ruben Diaz, who was Brian's assistant editor, he was like, oh, let me have a look at those. There Ruben called me there in the spot, and they offered me the gig.
That's awesome.
He consulted with Brian, who was back at the DC offices, and faxed it because that was a thing. But then he faxed copies of the pages to him and everything, and I was offered the job in the spot. And the funny thing is that Carlos never intervened at all in it. I mean, it wasn't this thing where he spoke for me or anything. Nothing at all. I mean, it was completely unrelated. It was kind of really weird thing. The only point of contact in here was the fact that I had worked with him and everything. But I mean, other than that, there was no intervention on his part.
So you got it.
It was all just cold thing. I mean, just Joaquin, who was absolutely nobody, got there with the pages, showed them, and they liked them, and that was it. And that's how it all started.
That's awesome. So you were able to get it on your own without Carlos putting in the word or anything. You just were able, it was just your work by itself. Being in the comic book industry, I want to know, what are your views now on the current comic book industry and the manga industry? What are your views on those?
Well, my views are that for a while now, it's I've been reading and hearing and talking about with people in the business, talking about it, about how they perceive that people, I mean, that the sales are declining and everything else. I'm always the same thing. Sales are not declining. People are still buying comic books. It's just that they're shifting from traditional superhero comic books and everything to manga, because they are kind of like them better for their own reasons, which I kind of understand perfectly because
I mean,
I'm right behind them.
We won't get into the
Um,
details.
yeah, I
what,
mean, I have no problem. I have no qualms about that. I mean, I have my differences with the way that the current, um, the two big publishers, obviously Marvel and DC. There's some books that I like, but the general um, editorial line that they're following, I'm not into it, and I can understand why other people you know, are also, you know, just leaving those behind and embracing other stuff because
yeah,
this is supposed to be, people goes for, read comic books and watch movies and for escapism. You want to escape for your dailyhood
y-
and your troubles and everything. You want to first and foremost have fun and have this safe, happy place where you
right.
go. And when I don't know, when the people, the companies that have been providing that for decades now, for a lot, a lot of decades, but for some reason they suddenly stop providing that. Obviously, people, I mean, there's still the same or even bigger. I think that maybe the reader base, it might be bigger now than it was in the late 90s, and it's just that they are not buying this stuff anymore. So they got this perception that the sales are declining, but they're not declining. They're just shifting to the
Yeah,
manga again, which is something that I can understand because it provides something that they don't. I'm a huge fan of comic books in general. I don't like the idea of I don't like the way that, especially in the States, people are using the term comic book as to differentiate manga and comic book as if they were different things when they actually aren't, because they're absolutely the same medium.
yeah,
It's the exact same medium. Just manga is the same word in Japanese for comic book. I mean, a funny pictures is exactly the same word, the same
yeah,
term. It's kind of stupid that I mean, I can understand that it's for the sake of clarity and all, but sometimes you can, because words have power. Orwell knew that, and words of power, and I see sometimes that people get to like taking sides. Look, I read manga, but I don't read comic book. You're reading comic books, you just don't know because manga is
yeah.
comic books, manga are comic books. So it's just stupid. I've never been this BS, never ever in my life. I've always been, since I was a kid, because of my father. I had read all kind of funny books, children books, um, mm, French comic, French albums, French band dessinée, manga, American comic book, whatever I could get my hands on. My local library also was kind of well
So
sorted.
Oscar,
So I read all kind of books. So I'm a big fan of everything, and I am a big fan of manga. I'm a big fan of French. Band dessinée, and it's just that I happen to end up in the States doing superheroes. I also love superheroes,
yeah,
but what I actually love is comic books.
right.
That's the
That's
that's
love
the
them.
point.
Yeah. Well, I
Bottom
mean,
line. That's my bottom line.
I mean, what is your opinion on the difference between comics and mangas today? Like, what makes them so different? Why are people more gearing towards mangas now than they are comics? But what makes me like I don't?
For me,
Yeah,
there's two main elements that differentiate current manga from current uh, American published comic books in general.
yep,
Obviously, I mean, we're not talking about particular cases because there's bound to be exception to all those rules in both
yep,
sides. But generally speaking, it's both what we've been talking about thematically. Um, you know, uh, Mangas are less about reaching and getting into the kind of discourse and being used as propaganda as is currently happening with American comic books. That's one aspect, and the other aspect for me is the way that they treat action. How to put it? American comic books have always been. I mean, for me, dialogues, Brian and me, we had this conversation often. For me, dialogues are also action.
Yeah.
I know that most people kind of differentiate between one thing and the other. For me, dialogues are also action too. I kind of when I'm planning, when I get a script and I go through it and I'm just drawing it in my head while I'm reading it.
Yeah.
I kind of choreograph what I'm reading in my head, and I always think that the dialogues are action too, and you got to make them interesting visually as as much as you can, working with the restrictions of what is just people speaking
right
each other, it's people conversing. But the fact that I considered dialogue to be action and I found it interesting and everything, that doesn't mean that it works that way for everyone. And sometimes when you get too talkative and you kind of neglect the action part, you get boring stuff, especially for or not outright boring, but something that especially for young people seems boring. Feels boring.
Absolutely.
And that's why the modern comic books are boring, because all they do is the X-Men sit down and they have dinner.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Go check out modern books today. There's a dinner scene or a breakfast scene or a lunch scene for pages.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're always eating and sitting and talking about their feelings. It's
that's just too much. I mean, and then Oscar, I mean, talking about mangas, I mean, what's your favorite manga? What do you like to read?
I love everything everything from Masamune Shirow. I'm a huge fan. Is maybe, I don't know if my favorite, but one of my favorites manga artists ever. I'm also a huge fan of Kenichi Sonoda. I don't know how many times I've gone through Gunsmith Cats and I never get bored of it. Also, I like Monster very much. I think it's one of the most interesting thrillers I've ever read in the comic book medium period. But generally, and I also liked Dragon Ball at the beginning, when actually it was fun. Before it devolved into a fighting video game. Which is what happened with Dragon Ball Z and everything. But at the beginning and Arale, I liked it very much. So I started also getting the comic books who were published here in Spain, also by Planeta Agostini, the same guys who were publishing Marvel stuff. So my history with, in fact, it goes even further, because when I was a kid here in Spain, Mazinger Z. I don't know if you know that it's a giant robot anime. I don't know if I'm speaking it right in English. It's Mazinger Z.
Mazinger,
it was huge here in Spain.
Really?
I think maybe that, but not only that. I mean, there were a lot of cartoons here in Spain, which were either straight up Japanese productions, or were Japanese productions that were commissioned by European studios, like I don't know, like Marco, which was a story about this based on an Italian book about an Italian kid who was lost in Argentina looking for his mother, and I can't remember the seed also. I mean, there was a lot of European productions where the scripts were written in Europe and everything, but all the animation and everything was commissioned to Japan.
That's interesting.
And then we got this kind of a lot of cartoons who were kind of perfect hybrids between European and Japanese sensibilities, because you had Japanese storytelling adapted to European scripts,
Yeah,
made for a really interesting stuff to get as a
that's
kid.
cool.
And so I've been actually living with with Japanese culture my entire life also.
That's crazy.
Even before realizing, because for us we didn't know about that. I mean,
Yeah.
we became as kids, we weren't aware unless you stayed for the credits at the end and you actually paid attention to them, which
Right.
was maybe too much to us for a kid at that age.
Yeah.
But especially me. But the thing is that, yeah, it was like that. Another of my favorite series ever was Sherlock Hound. I think it
Mhm.
was called in English speaking countries.
Yep.
Sherlock Hound, which was produced by, it was a TV series that was based on Sherlock Holmes, starring animals, dogs, actually, most of them were dogs. And it was produced by Gimli Studios.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's
yeah, it was
crazy.
produced by Gimli Studios. Yeah, look it up. It's absolutely amazing. It's that series is yeah. Some of the I think some of the episodes were actually directed by Miyazaki himself.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
I see
yeah,
it.
it's one
I'm
of
looking at it
my
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
It-
I yeah, it's that's another thing that I lost count of how many times I've gone through those episodes and I never get tired of them. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
that's kind of my background. But really, I'm interested in almost anything that I can get my hands on. I recently tried Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Mm, it's nice. I liked it. It's just that it didn't hook me much, but I mean kind of enjoying it. It's just
Right.
that having so much stuff to do and so little time to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard. But yeah, that's
Nice, a nice little break here and there when you get a chance to watch it.
yeah.
I want to know.
Well, in fact, I know watching it and reading it. I haven't watched the series.
Oh, reading it. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
reading. I'm reading the manga.
Nice.
I'm
Very,
reading the
very
manga,
nice.
but I'm at the end of the first volume, and I haven't gotten to the second one.
That's
I
awesome.
plan to. I plan to. I mean, it's just that it's fun. I mean, maybe it's not all that as people. Maybe I think that's the thing. The thing is that people are hailing it because they are starving for just cool and fun stuff.
Right.
And Chainsaw Man provides that. And
Yeah.
yeah, the designs are awesome. I can understand. I can get behind that. I understand exactly why it's gotten so wildly popular because the designs are extremely ingenious.
Right.
So I like them a lot, and I like the concepts. I like some of the narrative beats are a little samey.
The manga's better than
Same,
the anime.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome.
But the thing is that that's that's the manga that I'm currently reading,
Yeah.
and yeah,
That's
that's
great. That's awesome. Yeah, Chainsaw Man's a great one. I have to actually read it, but I do enjoy the show. And I know a buddy of mine went to Japan. He said it's hugely popular over there with everything. But I want to know, Oscar, I want to jump into a little bit about you and Brian. How did you guys meet? And, like, where was the first connection there?
well, we met on LinkedIn actually,
Yeah.
and I can remember. I think that it was Brian who approached me. Uh, it
It was
was
me.
like
I
yeah, it
I
was
think it was
one.
we connected, and then because I couldn't believe it was you, right? And I looked, and because your picture is you as Captain Marvel,
Yeah,
right? So I figured it's got to be you. It's got to be that Oscar Jimenez. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, there's Oscar Jimenez's, so some with a G, but some with a J. And
yeah.
so when I found out it was you, I got excited, right? Because then I immediately ran downstairs and I broke out my Contest of Champions too, and it's because I haven't, checked that one out for a
Yeah, I
while.
remember that. I
So
remember that.
it was just more or less, I think it was just our common love for books and storytelling, and
Yep.
we just seemed to. It was the right place at the right time, kind of thing.
That's
And
awesome.
then,
Serendipity.
eventually you get to know each other a bit better, and then you start talking about different things, and that's kind of like how it led to Oscar hopping on board for Adamanto.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I want to know, Oscar, what are your thoughts on Adamanto and what sets it apart from other mangas and things that you've been a part of?
Well, for one thing is shonen well made. I got to say that sometimes when when you got a genre that is so commonplace uh, in a particular culture, like shonen is in Japan.
Yep.
Remember what I was telling you right now about in some places when I was reading the first volume of Chainsaw Man, I was getting this sense of familiarity.
Yep.
Because that's what it is. I mean, in fact, if you like shonen, you like uh, those elements, and then that's what you're looking for if you are buying this kind of book. So that can be a good thing, but that can also be a trapping in some sense, which means that obviously shonens that come from Japan are kind of formulaic, as happens also with American comic books made by Americans. Just to put things in perspective, the same kind of stuff that you get when actual Japanese authors, when manga authors get to work on superhero books, that you get something different and special because they're doing something that is an American genre. They're working with American characters. It's an American genre, but they're given their own take that is just different because it's based on their own perspective, which is culturally different.
Yep.
And it makes it different by definition, and it makes the product special just by definition, just by the fact that it's done by someone who has a different cultural sensibility and background and everything. That's what actually gives it some flair and spices it up. And I think that in Adamanto is going to happen, or is happening exactly the same thing, but in the other direction. It's the other way around. We're kind of providing take on the shonen genre that obviously follows the beats because it won't be a shonen otherwise.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a Westerner background and sensibilities in our cultural, respective cultural backgrounds and everything. I'm a European. Brian is Canadian. But we both love the source material, and so that's going to produce obviously something that is for someone who loves shonen is going to love. They're going to love it, but it's also going to be different in the sense that it's not going to be the same thing. Just as when I watch One Piece or I watch Naruto, I mean, you know those common beats that keep repeating and all. And again, if you like that, that's okay because you want more of that.
Right.
We got some of those elements, most of those elements. The fundamentals are there, but we're also just providing, just by definition, and it will happen even in a non-intentional way. Obviously, we're also giving something else of us that is not present in most Japanese shonen. Again, by definition, it's nothing good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to make it different. I mean, it's different. It's a Westerner take by two people who love the genre and understand the genre and understand the culture it comes from and emanates from. But at the same time, just as you can enjoy a lot what manga Japanese authors do when they get to work with American superheroes and everything, I think that Ortega is going to be interested by the definition just by that because I don't know. Obviously, I got a lot of years behind me. I know my work. I know how to tell stories. I can't understand anything, but I've been asked many times why. I mean, what's my work? I mean, what I do for a living, and I always say the same thing. What I do for a living depends on what I can get my hands on obviously, because I mean that's a finicky industry. But actually, my actual work is telling stories.
Yeah.
First and foremost. I mean,
That's
I am an illustrator. I'm an artist. I'm an illustrator. Whatever you want, but it's a means to an end.
Yeah.
It's a means to an end. For me, my work is telling stories, and that's my main concern, and that's what I see myself as. I see myself as a storyteller. So I can, I mean, I can do concept art, I can do commissions, I can do, but for me, where it's at, to telling stories. And I don't know. I mean, it's whenever I'm working on a story, an actual story, I'm drawing a comic book, I'm completely immersed on it, and I live it and breathe it, and I don't know. For me, the characters become real in my mind.
Yeah.
It's like people I know, and I'm just trying of translate their what happens to them, and try to translate it to to pictures, so people can share them and see what happens. But in my mind, what happens is actually happening somewhere in some parallel dimension or reality or something like that. We're just chronicling it. That's my take on my job, and that's what we're doing here, literally, at least from my point of view. And I know that Brian is of the same mind. We're very much alike. That's what makes this so interesting, because this kind of synergy doesn't happen really that often.
That's awesome. Well, it's awesome that you guys have such a great connection and the synergy is there between the both of you, and both seem so passionate about, the manga industry and the comic book industry, but also for you two to team up, Brian, a great story writer, but you, Oscar, as well, is just a great artist, but also a great storyteller on the page as well, too, with your drawings and everything. It's going to be fantastic to see Adamanto come to life, and I can't wait to get all of it.
Just wait.
So I love the characters and the themes and everything. Brian knows I am a huge fan of. For one, I'm a huge history buff, and also I'm deeply passionate about mythology, and I all kinds of mythology, actually. But I love European mythology. I love also Japanese mythology. Brian knows. And so I mean it's just perfect. It's just a perfect blend of everything all together. So it's something that I don't know, it doesn't happen often that you get to work on something that reunites so much stuff that you like. So I don't know, it's really exciting.
That's awesome.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, this has been a lot of fun to, sit down with both of you, and Oscar, to hear your thoughts on Adamanto and, being able to work with Brian. And I just love your passion behind it, and hearing about, talking about Brian and how you guys are reunited with the synergy and the excitement. And I can just tell that there's a good connection between the both of you. This has been a lot of fun speaking with you, Oscar, and getting to know your background, especially someone that's so great.
Wait a second. Want a sneak peek of something?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you get this.
Oh, geez. I haven't seen this either. Zoom in.
I'm not sure I can. Well, I can.
Right there. Yeah.
You can do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We've been working on the character designs over the past couple of weeks. So I haven't seen this either. So yeah, I'm geeking out a bit right now too.
This here, and this here is kanji for resilience.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, that's fantastic.
We'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
I love it. Oh my God. So they give our listeners a sneak peek of what you have going on here. And this is super exciting, Oscar. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Brian, thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see Adamanto and see it all come to life. I'm pumped, and that drawing just got me more fired up. So now I can't wait to see the whole thing.
For sure,
the feeling is mutual.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.